Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back. We was here earlier. We just had to take a little break. I told you they was doing some construction wire laying down or some stupid shit. And these motherfuckers was like in front of my door. Now, whether y'all could hear it or not was irrelevant. It was just bothering me. You know what I mean? So I couldn't even continue on. And put my ad back up. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. Oh, y'all gritty. With your boy Juice Warner. And don't forget to check out my book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box. And if you want to be a supporter, you can go to, pardon me, I'm over here getting this greenery. You can go to some junkies, social media junkies apparel, and support the squad from there. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you can be informed whenever new content is up. All right? All right. So, like I said, forgive me for ending earlier. Only did like 45 minutes, so I want to get like another hour in and continue on. So we was finishing off with the shill, right? So I want to actually go into Marxism real quick, right? It's going to play a part. This is all dealing with, what is it called? This is class consciousness, right? So we're going to go over here. Right. And you see in Marxism, we got class consciousness. These are, like, as you can see the highlights up there, this is not from the different, schemes, but up inside of the other categories, right, that we have up here. Right, so you have, bystander effect, charisma. So these are the ways of, calculating the people in the crowd. So I wanted to show you Marxism, which is the conscious woke community, right? And so they're funding through freemasonry, because I told you go to a financier, and then you can pump this down into the community through Freemasonry. You know what I mean? So Freemasonry is your up close and personal brainwash information that's passed down. This is a system that they came up with. You know what I mean? So of manipulating the people. So we're gonna come down here where we at. Okay, yeah, we got to go into the Marxism, right? So in Marxism, class consciousness is the set of beliefs that person hold regarding their social class or economic rank in society. The structure of their class in their class interest. According to Karl Marx, it is an awareness that is key to sparking a revolution that would create dictatorship of the proliferature, transforming it from wage earning property-less mass into the ruling class. Transforming it from wage earning propertyless mass into the ruling class. All right. So just want you to understand what y'all dealing with when you're dealing with the conscious community and what they are actually promoting to you. Right? While German theorist Karl Marx really used the term class consciousness, he did make the distinction between class in itself, which is defined as a category of people having a common relation to the means of production, and the class for itself, which is defined as a stratum organized in active pursuit of its own interest. All right. Forgive me if I'm stopping, but I want to roll up my greenery. I don't like my I don't want my wrap to get hardened up. You know what I mean? Then it's hard to roll. It cracks up and all of that. So take this little break. Y'all can look at this real quick. All right. And we had defining a person's social class can be determined by their awareness of it. Marx is defined, right? Classes on the basis of their relation to the means of production, especially on whether they own capital. Non-Marxist social scientists distinguish various social strata on the basis of income, occupation, and status. All right. All right. So where we at? Where we at? Interest, status. Early, right, in the 19th century, the labels working class and middle class were already coming into common usage. The old hierarchy reinforced by the new gentry who owned their class, we owned their success to commerce, industry, and the professions, evolved into an upper class. Its consciousness was formed in part by public schools in the British sense, where it refers to a form of private school and universities. The upper class Tenetian maintained control over the political. I'm sorry, I didn't put the whole thing in there. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Class consciousness. Let's go in here. All right, see Karl Marx up there. All right, see Karl Marx. All right. Where we at? Voice, upper universities, upper class, maintain the political system. All right, copy. So I'm just bringing this right from here to there. So it's not like I'm giving you something freestyling. I want you to always know where it came from. You know what I'm saying? I don't own the rights to this. Political system, depriving not only the working class, but the middle class of a voice of the political, classes of a voice in the political process. Right? So, George Lukacs, History and Class Consciousness, 1923. Class consciousness, as described by George Lukacs, History and Class Consciousness. Turn that phone down. All right. History and Class Consciousness, 1923, is opposed to any psychological conception of consciousness, which forms the basis of individuals or mass psychology. See Freud, or before him, Le Bon. According to Lukács, each social class has a determined class consciousness which it can achieve. In effect, as opposed to liberal conceptions of consciousness as the basis of individual freedom and of the social contract. Marx's class consciousness is not an origin, but an achievement, i.e., it must be earned or won. Hence, it is never assured. The totalitarian class consciousness is the result of a permanent struggle to understand the concrete totality of the historical process. According to Lukács, right, the Potalities was the first class in history that may achieve true class consciousness because of its specific position, highlighting the Communist Manifesto as the living negative of capitalism. All other classes, including the Bulgarians, are limited to false consciousness, which impelled them from understanding the totality of history. Instead of understanding each specific moment as a portion of a supposedly deterministic historical process, they utilize it and believe it is everlasting. Hence, capitalism is not thought as a specific phase in history, but is neutralized and thought of as an external, solidified part of history. Says Lukács, this false consciousness, which forms ideology itself, is not a simple error, as in class philosophy, but an illusion which cannot be dispelled. All right, but an illusion which cannot be dispelled. I should have probably bowled that out for you too, right? Keep that in mind. Okay. Marx is described in his theory of commodity fascism, which Lukács completed in his concept of reinfections, in which alienation is what follows the workers' entanglements to the world, follow the new life acquired by the product of his work. The dominant Bulgarian's ideology thus leads to individuals to see the achievement of his labor take a life of its own. Furthermore, speculations is also seen as a characteristic of the ideology of modern rationalism, which creates specific and independent domains, art, politics, science, and the likes. Only a global perspective can point out how all these different dominant interacts, argues Lukács. He also points out that Immanuel Kant brought to its limit the classical operations between the abstract form and the concrete. Historical content, which is abstractly conceived as initially and contingent. Thus, the Kant rational system history becomes totally contingent and thus ignored. Only when George, can be moderated, be found between the abstract form and the abstract notion of a concrete content. Even if the Bogorius loses his individual point of view in an attempt to grasp the reality of the totality of society and of historical process, he is condemned to a form of false consciousness. As an individual, he will always see the collective result of individual action as a form of objective law, to which he must submit himself. Liberalism has gone so far as seeing an invisible hand in this collective result, making capitalism the best of all possible worlds. By contrast, the proletariats would be, according to Lukács, the first class in history with the possibility to achieve a true form of class consciousness, granting its knowledge of the totality of the historical process. Right? The proletariats take the place of, world spirit, which achieves history through Volgascus, a spirit of the people, the idealist conception of an abstract spirit making history, which ends in the realm of reason. Right? I'm gonna give you a breakdown after I finish. But on a concrete, identical subject objective of history, the proletariat, where we at? The proletariat is both the object of history created by the capitalist social formation, but it is also the subject of history, as it is its labor that shapes the world, and thus knowledge of itself also necessarily. Knowledge is the reality and of the totality of the historical process. The proletariat class consciousness is not immediate. Class consciousness must not be mistaken either with the conscience of one future or collective interest, opposed to personal immediate interest. A lot of people are not understanding that when you look at things on an individual basis and not as a whole, like everybody, you overlook what's really happening. Like I pointed out the fact that, when America was formed, right, it let the criminals loose. It let them put the chicken, the pox inside the blankets, yellow pox inside the blankets for the what do you call it, for the Native Americans. You have then after they do that, the Lewis and Clarks, you going out west, you getting rid of all of the natives, right? But then those lands, you convince those people that they would be in control of, but then you send in a government to take them out. And now you have these people who own properties through the eyes of the government, but the government is also using, gangs and whatever tactics to make you lose that property as well. So nobody sees the communist actions within America because everybody is dealing in an individual basis. So they don't see the grand attack, right? The probability of class consciousness is given by an objective process of history, which transformed the proletariat into a commodity. Hence, objectifying it. Class consciousness is thus not a simple subjective act. A conscious as consciousness here is not the consciousness of an objective opposed to itself, but the objective consciousness. The act of being conscious of one's self disrupts the objective from the objectivity from its object, and reification and totalitarian consciousness. Three more point view. In other words, instead of the Bulgaria subject of its corresponding ideological concept of individually free, the proletariat has been transformed into objects of commodity, which, when it takes consciousness of itself, transform the very structure of objectivity that is of its reality. All right. So, like I was saying, well, no. First, let's go back over here. I'm gonna go back over here. All right. The possibility of class consciousness is given by the objective process of history, which transform the proletariat into a commodity, hence objectifying it. Class consciousness is thus not a simple subjective act, as consciousness here is not the consciousness of the objective opposed to itself, but the objective consciousness, right? An act of being conscious of oneself disrupts the objective form of its object, and reification of the proletariat's consciousness, the proletariat's point of view. In other words, instead of the Bulgaria's subject, it is in its corresponding ideology concepts of individual free will. Right? The proletariat has been transformed into object of commodity, which when it takes consciousness of itself, transforms the very structure of objectivity that is of reality. The specific role of the proletariat is a consequence of the specific portion. Thus, for the first time, consciousness of itself, class consciousness, is also consciousness of the totality. Knowledge of the entire social and historical process. Though dialectical materialism, the potential proletariat understands that what the individual Bulgarians conceives as laws akin of the laws of nature, which may only manipulate as in, right, dream, but not change in it, but not changed, is in fact the result of a social and historical process which can be controlled. Right. Furthermore, only dialectical materialism links together all specialized domains, which modern rationalism can only think as separate instead of as forming a totality. Only the proletariat can understand that the so-called internal laws of economy are in fact nothing more than a historical form taken by the social and economical process of a capitalist society. Since these laws are the results of the collective actions of individuals and are thus created by society, Mark and Lucas reasoning that this is necessarily meant that they could be changed. Any attempt in transforming the so-called laws governing capitalism into universal principles valid in all times and places are criticized by Lucas as a form of false consciousness. Right? So if you thinking that you dealing with capital, if you dealing with what do you call it, communism, and you thinking that is not capitalism, and you're living a lie, man. It's all the same thing. It's just that now you giving the power to individuals and letting them make full total choices of your life. As the expression of the revolutionary process itself, dialectical materialism, which is the only theory with an understanding of the totality of the historical process, is the theory which may help the proletariat in its struggle for class consciousness, although Lukács does not contest the Marxist primacy of the economic basis on the ideology of superstructure, not to be mistaken with vulgar economic determinism. He considered that there is a place of ultimate struggle for class consciousness. In order to achieve a unity of theory and praxis, theory must not only tend towards reality in an attempt to change it, reality must also tend towards theory. Otherwise, the historical process leads to life of its own, while theorists make their own little theories, right? Desperately waiting for some kind of possible influence over the historical process. Hence, reality itself must tend towards the theory, making the expression of the revolutionary process itself, in turn, a theory which has its goals helping the proletariat achieve class consciousness must first be objective theory of class consciousness. However, theory in itself is insufficient and ultimately relies on the struggle of humankind and other proletariats for consciousness. The objective theory of class consciousness is only the theory of an objective possibility. It's a lot of shit there. A lot of shit there just to say, yo, listen, while you're taking a theory and you are keep building on it. That's what you see with a lot of the conscious community and pseudoscience. It's just taking a theory and building on it to try to make it a reality. While doing so, there is another system in the background that's allowing you to give up all of your stuff, right? Criticism. Economist Ludwig von Mises argued that Marx confused the notion of cassettes in class. Mrs. allowed the class consciousness and the associated class struggle were valid concepts of some circumstances where rigid social cassettes exist. When slavery is legal, the slave does share a common motive of ending their disadvantaged status relative to other castes. But according to Mrs., no such conflicts are present in a society in which all citizens are equal before the law. All right. See what he's saying, right? No logical objection can be advanced against distinguishing various classes among the members of such society. Any classification is logically permissible. However, attributably the mark is distinguished may be such as distinction may be chosen, but the non-sensual and classified the members of the capacitic society according to their position in the framework of the social division of labor, and then the identity these classes with the cassette of status society. Argued that Marx's efforts to portray the workers and the capitalists as two monolithic groups are false, as workers and capitalists would routinely compete within themselves, such as capitalist entrepreneurs competing among themselves or native workers competing with immigrant workers. Rothbard argued that if there is a contrast conflict between different members of the same class, then it is absurd to argue that these members have objective interests with one another against another class. So when you see the argument of the 1% and these type of things, this is this attack on you, right? As if saying that we have two systems, right? We have this system that's fighting against, the capitalists, but we also have classation where even those people within the same class fight amongst each other. So then the argument of everybody attempting to be the same would be false, because everybody is still working on a capitalist mindset. All right. So now we're back, so we're leaving out of that and we're going back into hypnotics, right? Hypnotism. So we got 8 minutes before the break. Braid made a rough distinction between different stages of hypnosis, which he termed the first and second conscious stage of hypnotism. He later replaced this with the distinction between sub-hypnotic, full hypnotic, and hypnotic coma stages. Right? Jean-Martin Cortec made a similar distinction between stages, which he named some up whatever, like ligatory and whatever, man, catastrophes, right? However, this is the next person, and right, these are the people who introduce more complex hypnotic depth scales based on a combination of behavioral, psychological, and subjective responses, some of which were due to direct suggestion and some of which were not. All right. due to direct suggestion, and some of them were not. In the first few decades of the 20th century, these early clinical depth scales were superseded by more sophisticated hypnotics susceptibilities scales based on an experimental research. The most influential were the Davis husband and Friedlander, a scale developed in 1930. Andre Westengolf and Ernest Hillgriff developed the Stanford scale of hypnotic susceptibility in 1959, consisting of 12 suggestion test terms following the standardized hypnotic eye fixation and indoctrination script. And this has become one of the most widely referenced research tools in the field of hypnosis. Soon after, in 1962, Ronald Shaw and Emily Cortota, developed a similar group scale, called it Harvard Group Scale of Hypnotic Susceptibility, HGSHS. Whereas the older depth scale tried to infer the level of hypnotic trance from supposed objectivity, man. Observable signs such as spontaneous amnesia. Most subsequently scales have measured the degree of observed or self-elevated responsiveness to specific suggestions tests, such as direct suggestion of arm rigidity, right? Right. Always like to have you see, direct suggestion, right? The Stanford Harvard HIP is most other susceptibility scales converted numbers into an assessment of a person's susceptibility as high, medium, or low. Approximately 80% of the population are medium, 10% are high, and 10% are low. Right now, if you remember, they said in their in the beginning, it has always been this scale of 80% of the population would guarantee be controlled. Then you have a very low percent that's in the 10%, which I would be in, right? And then you have, the extremely high, and those are the ones where you can actually lead, to do stuff like I'm not saying this was the case, but let's say the subway, attack that happened in New York a few weeks ago, where the dude let off the smoke grenades and all of that and shot people, right? That could be in that level, right? There are some controversies as to whether this is distributed on a normal bell-shaped curve or whether it is a bimodal with a small blip of people at the high end, right? Hypnosability scores are highly stable over a person's lifetime. Research by Barrett has found that there are two distinct types of highly susceptible subjects, right? Which she termed fantasizers, right? Fantasizers, right? And dissociates, right? Scores high on absurd up wait absorption scales. Find it easy to block out real world stimuli without hypnosis. Spend such time imaginary play, right? Hypnosis spends much time. Oh, no, okay. Spends much time daydreaming, reports imaginary companions as a child, and grows up with parents who encourage imaginary play. Right? Scores high on, right, on absurdity scales, finds it easy to block out real world stimuli with hypnosis, spends much time daydreaming, right? Report imaginary, companions as a child, and grew up with parents who encouraged imaginary play, right? So when you do this, you are actually making them more susceptible to being manipulated, right? Dissociate often has a history of child abuse and other traumas, learned to escape into numbness and to forget unpleasant events. Right? Learn to escape in numbness and forget unpleasant events. Their association to daydreaming All right, let's go back over here real quick. All right, let me make sure my clock is running. All right, okay. So, where we at with this right here? Daydreaming, right? Their association to daydreaming was often, hold on. Get me? Okay. Something sound my weed. Little lint of dirt or something. I don't know what the fuck it was. Anyway. Okay. Their association to daydreaming was often going blank rather than creating vivid recalled fantasies. Both score equally high on formal scales of hypnotic successibility. All right. All right, so you can understand that these are not the things you want to encourage. They encourage because they know that these are the things that they can use to their advantage. Individuals with dissociative identity disorder have a high hypnosability of any clinical group, followed by those of post-traumatic stress disorder. Right, and so we can say, right, you heard of, I forgot the young lady name. I actually love her so much. I'm mad that I didn't get her name right now, but she had came up with this post traumatic slave, something. And so when we take these understandings and we can say, yes, post traumatic, and we know that they have, put the Freemasonic movement in our areas, to work these tests on us. whether you believe it or not, right? I mean, this is for the people who just came now, but anybody who's been around has been understanding that I've been showing you the connection, right? So if you just walked in right now, this is going to sound strange to you. You might have to go back a little. You know what I'm saying? But, so if you keep a people inside of this train of thought, this, traumatized state. That's the reason why they promote so much foul actions within our community, because we would be so engulfed with that we'll never be able to get out of that struggle. You understand what I'm saying? I told you this is hypnotism and mesmerism. It's not just the side of them trying to find some legitimacy in the actions that they are taking. Right? Applications. There are numerous applications for hypnosis across multiple fields of interest, including medical, psychiatric use, military use, self-improvement, and entertainment. Gotta put that up there, right? Entertainment, right? And military use, for me it's the same thing, right? The medical and psychiatric use already been dealing with that already. The American Medical Association currently has no official stance on the medical use of hypnosis, right? Understand that. Has no official stance on the use, right? Let me start from here. All right, let me bold that for you too. All right, so you see that, right? The American Medical Association currently has no official stance on the medical use of hypnosis. Let's get that shit straight. Hypnosis has been used as a supplement approach to cognitive behavior therapy since the early 1940s. Hypnosis was defined in relation to classic conditioning, where the words of the therapist were the stimuli, and the hypnosis would be the conditioned response. Where what? The therapist was the stimuli. Right? And the hypnosis would be the conditioning response. All right? And the conditioning would be the response. Some traditional cognitive behavior therapist methods were based in classic conditioning. It would include inducing a relaxed state and inducing a fear stimulus. Right? It would include inducing a relaxed state in inducing a fear stimuli. One way of inducing a relaxed state was through hypnosis. Hypnosis has been used in forensics, sports, education, physical therapy, and rehabilitation. Hypnosis has been employed by artists for creative purposes. All right? Most notable, the Surrealist Circle of Andre Breton, who employed hypnosis, automatic writing, and sketches to create for creative purposes. Hypnotic methods have been used to re-experience drug states and mystical experiences. All right? Okay, self-hypnosis as properly used for quitting, alternate stress and anxiety, promote weight loss, and induce sleep hypnosis. Stage hypnosis can persuade people to perform unusual public feats. Some people have drawn any analogies between certain aspects of hypnosis and areas such as crowd psychology, which we just went through, right? We just went through the crowd psychology, right? Religious hysteria, right? And ritual trances and potential tribal coaches. No, preliterate tribal coaches, right? My fault. Okay. Hypnosis is used. Wait. Hypnotherapy is a use of hypnosis in psychotherapy, right? It is used by licensed physicians, psychologists, and others. Pharmacists and psychologists may use hypnosis to treat depression, anxiety, eating disorders, sleep disorders, compulsive gambling, phobias, and post-traumatic stress. Now, mind you, none of this shit is actually proven. And one, the post-traumatic stress, they would tell you not to use it, right? While certified hypnotists who are not physicians or psychologists often treat smoking and weight management. So you don't even have to have any clinical, backing to do some of this shit. Right? Hypnotherapy is viewed as a helpful adjunct by proponents, having addictive effects. Having additive effects when treating psychological disorders, such as these, along with scientifically proven cognitive therapy. Hypnotherapy should not be used for repairing or refreshing memories. Why? Because hypnosis results in memory hardening, right? Which increases the confidence of false memories. Right? Because remember, this is all suggestive. So you could suggest that this is what happened, and if they are gullible to accept things, then you could put that inside of them, right? Because they're looking at you as this person with the answers. The effectiveness, this is why, they, you see the posts with the OGs, and they supposed to be, raising, their drops or whatever you call them, their members, their new members, their youthful members, into different ways of life, but they not, because they're looking for them as the guidance, the suggestion of what they're supposed to be doing. Excuse me. The effectiveness of hypnotherapy has not yet been accurately addressed. Right? I got the hiccups. All right. And due to a lack of evidence indicating any level of efficiency, it's regarded as an alternative, right? And also, look, due to the lack of evidence indicating any level of efficiency, right? It's regarded as a type of alternative medicine by numerous reputable medical organizations such as the National Health Service. All right, so just have that understanding that, it started off always as a sham, right? And it's just really proven that X amount of people are very gullible and can be led. You know what I mean? So even if I'm putting out this information according to them, it ain't nothing I can do about it because 80% of the population is gonna go whatever the fuck they can that the masses go with, and they got the masses. So so you already know. That's what they telling you. They telling you that you are of the 80% that would not be able to understand what is being told to you, the hustle, right? They're telling you. You just read it, and that's this another time. This is like the third time I came across that statement when it comes to hypnosis, right? And remember, hypnosis and mesmerism, magnetism, is two of the same things, just with different approaches to it. One is for the streets, and one is to give credence on the screen. You know what I mean? To give it, credibility and shit. Primary research has expressed brief hypnotic interventions as possibly being useful for managing painful HIV, DSP, because its history is of usefulness in pain management. Its long term effectiveness of brief interventions, the ability to teach self hypnosis to patients, and cost effectiveness of the interventions, and the advantage of using such an intervention as opposed to the use of pharmaceutical drugs. Yeah, I don't use pharmaceutical drugs either. I smoke weed. I mean, I got some painkillers here because I have back spasms. You know what I mean? So outside of that, I wouldn't deal with none of that stuff. You know, so it goes. Modern hypnosis has been used with varying success in a variety of forms, such as addiction, age regression therapy, hypnotherapy, cognitive behavior hypnotherapy, or clinical hypnosis combined with elements of cognitive behavioral therapy. As you know, I hate having the smoke in my mouth guard. For some reason, I should like get in my nose and I get all sneezy and all of that stuff. So where we at right here? Cognitive Erickson, hypnotherapy, fear and phobias, habit control, pain management, psychotherapy, relaxation, reduce patient behavior, scratching that hinders the treatment of skin disease, soothing anxiety, surgical patients, and sports performance and weight loss. I'm gonna just take one more pull, then I'm gonna put this down. All right, okay. So it goes. In a January 2021 article in Psychology Today, my fault, Harvard psychologist Deidre Barrett wrote, a hypnotic trance is not therapeutic in and of itself, but specific suggestions, right? But specific suggestions and images fed to the client in a trance can profoundly alter their behavior. Right? So you see it yourself. A hypnotic trance is not therapeutic in and of itself, but specific suggestions and images fed to clients in a trance can profoundly alter their behavior. As they rehearse the new ways they want to think and feel, they lay groundwork for changes in their future actions. Right? Because you know, like how even when when you upset, you'd be like, you'd be like, yo, when I see this motherfucker, that's my word, man. I'm a punch him in the face. You are building yourself up. You putting yourself in this position that even to yourself, you can't lie to yourself. You just put yourself in a trance, right? That's just what it is. That's just what it is, right? Barrett describes specific ways of the operationalists for habit changing in I don't know what that is of phobias, right? In her 1998 book of hypnotherapy therapy case studies, she reviewed the clinical research of hypnosis with dissociated disorders, smoking sensations, and insomnia, and described successful treatment of these. Welcome back, welcome back. You know, this is Politics as Usual with your boy, Juice Wanna, old dark gritty. You know? So, we just was covering the tactics or the areas in which they have placed themselves in your world, but coming out of a con, coming out of a system that was already set up. And as they go on, they constantly tell you there is little to no evidence of this, right? Outside of proof of manipulation, psychological manipulation. So they turn that system into a science of manipulating the mind, right? Okay, Barrett described, let me get back over here, right? Barrett describes specific ways of, of this is operationalist for habit changings, right? I don't know that part of phobias. In her 1998 book of hypnotherapy cases studies, she reviewed the clinical research of hypnosis with dissociative disorders, right? Smoking sensations and insomnia, and describes successful treatment of these complaints. In a July 2001 article of Scientific American titled The Truth and the Hype of Hypnosis, Michael Nash wrote that using hypnosis, scientists have temporarily created hallucinations, right, compulsions, certain types of memory loss, false memories, and delusions in the laboratory so that these phenomena can be studied in controlled environments. All right, I'm like, you got to see this again. Now we're gonna go to this one again. All right, it says using hypnosis, right? Scientists have temporarily created hallucinations, compulsions, certain type of memory losses, and false memories, and the delusions of the laboratory so these phenomena can be studied in a controlled environment. And y'all thinking that I'm playing. You thinking that what I'm saying, this system of Freemasonry is just to see your reaction to things, right? And I mean in many different areas. This is not, you know, a limited thing, man. This is through the religion. I showed you through the religion. I showed you through rioting, through different avenues that they have been using this system just to study you so they could know how to control you. And so every time we do certain things, it's really just to put a tighter noose around us. This is everybody, but it's being used on us for a global bind. Military. Right now we in the military. Right? And this is in 2006. Declassified a 1966 document obtained by the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. Archives show that hypnosis was investigated for military applications. The full paper explored the potentials of operational use. The overall conclusion of this study was that there was no evidence that hypnosis could be used for military operations, no applications, and no clear evidence whether hypnosis as a definable phenomenon outside of ordinary suggestions, motivations, and subjective expectancies according to the document. Right? So, this is the military telling you, right? The overall conclusion of the study was that there was no evidence, right? Make this all bold for you, right? There was no evidence that hypnosis could be used for military application. But that's not true. Because when we look at Colin Kaepernick and taking the knee and the whole understanding that the military pays for you to have that at the games, that's hypnosis. That's planting inside of you something for you to always go over there. So that is not true. But, and, I guess they're trying to say as, in the long haul, which I don't, which once you in, then you can have those people. But as a whole unit, it would still have to be through that unit, Freemasonry, the ground level. You know what I mean? The triggers. Right? That hypnosis could be used in military application. And this is the ill part. And no clear evidence whether hypnosis is a definable phenomenon outside ordinary suggestion, motivation, and subject expectancy, right? Expectations, right? According to the document. Because that's what hypnosis is. The suggestion, your motivation, and what you expected to get out of it, right? The use of hypnosis in intelligence would present a certain technical problem not encountered in the clinical laboratory. To obtain compliance from a resistant source, for example, it would be necessary that hypnosis, the source, under essentially hostile circumstances, there is no good evidence, clinical or experimental, that this can be done. Now, what they say in here, experimental. So, when they say experimental, they meaning that they had already put some type of test to it. You understand what I'm saying? And now, mind you, I believe this is before the LSD and all of that, or this could be from that. I didn't look into this document, so you know me, I'm a search into it. I'll let you know at a later date. Furthermore, the document states that it would be difficult to find an area of scientific interest more beset by divided professional opinions, and contradictory experimental evidence. Right? No one can say whether hypnosis is a qualitatively unique state with some physiological and conditions response components, or only a form of suggestion induced by high motivation and positive relationship between hypnotist and subject. All right. Response, state. There is no one can say whether hypnosis is clinically unique state with some psychological and condition response component, or there we go. Or I gotta have that there. Right? Only a form of suggestion induced by high motivation and a positive relationship between hypnotist and subject. T.X. Barber has produced hypnotic deafness and hypnotic blindness, allegories, and other responses seen in hypnosis, all without hypnotizing anyone. Orion has shown that unhypnotized persons can be motivated to equal or surpass the supposed superhuman physical feats seen in hypnotists. Right? The study concludes that there is no reliable account of its effectiveness use in an intelligible service by an intelligence service in history. All right. So, as you see, it's telling you, through a personal, right? Some super, where we at? Where it was telling you only motivated, induced by positive relationship, right? Then it's also telling you, shown unhappy person, it could study. I forgot where it was at, but it was just basically telling you that through this close contact and these other means, that's why I tell people, do not watch TV laying down. Do not watch TV in the dark. Right? We already went through it, why in here. I explained to people why. Me, myself, I haven't done that since the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so it goes. Research into hypnosis and military applications is further verified by the Project MK Ultra experiment. So this is what I was alluding to. So basically, everything that they were saying up top is even other experiments had nothing to do with this one, right? Also conducted by the CIA. According to congressional testimony, the CIA experimented with eliciting LSD in hypnosis for mind control. Many of these programs were done domestically and on participants who were not informed of the study proposed or that they would be given drugs. The same CIA who put cocaine into the community, the same cocaine that the drug labs came up with crack with, right? Because crack came out of the science labs, right? The CIA brought the coke in and distributed to the people, right? You tell me, right? It says research into hypnosis and military applications is further verified by the Project MK Ultra experiments, also conducted by the CIA. According to congressional testimony, the CIA experimented with utilizing, I don't know what that is, LSD in hypnosis for mind control. Many of these programs were done domestically and on participants who were not informed of the studies proposed or that they would be given drugs. I'm just saying, look, CIA. This is, the CIA, right? I'm gonna just put it from here, right? This part right here. This is the CIA. This is right. We thinking of snowfall and all of this, right? Many of these programs were done domestically and on participants who were not informed of the studies proposed or that they would be given drugs. Keep that in mind. Self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis happens when a person hypnotizes oneself, commonly involving the use of auto-suggestion. The technique is often used to increase the motivation for a diet, to quit smoking, or reduce stress. People who participate in self-hypnosis sometimes require assistance. Some people use devices known as mind machines to assist in the process, where others use hypnotic recordings. Self-hypnosis is claimed to help with stage fright, relaxation, and physical well-being. Notice how they kept that in there. Claimed. Claimed to play. Let's get this shit straight, okay? Music. The idea of music as hypnosis developed from the work of Franz Mesmer. When you get mesmerizing, who this whole thing is where, the modern time is all about. Hypnotism is from mesmerism. So here you go, you found it once again, right? Instruments such as pianos, violins, harps, and especially the glass harmonica often features a mesmer's testament and were considered to contribute to Mesmer's success. Hypnotic music became an important part of the development of the psychology that regards the hypnotic state as an automatic phenomena that links the physical reflex in their experiments with sound hypnosis. Jean Martin Charcot used gongs and tuning forks, and Ivan Pavlov used bells. The intention behind their experiment was to prove that psychologically response to sound could be automatically bypassing the conscious mind. Have you ever been on Clubhouse, right? And you listen to, the woke community and all of that, the Moors and all of them. You'll see they always using their little gong and all of that. Go on Clubhouse and see if you don't see this happening. Right. And if it's happening, then you come back and you go, God damn it, man. They've been trying to rock me because I'm telling you, they are all a part of that same crew. Matter of fact, I believe I got some recordings, and I'm a pull it up. I'm a make sure I edit out anybody's names. But outside of that, yeah, we gonna get down to the nitty gritty, and we gonna show you that these people are still trying to perform this with the impression that you don't know what they doing. So you'll hear me laughing at them. Right? So let's say this again for you, right? Hypnotic music becomes an important part of the development of the psychology that regards the hypnotic state as an automatic phenomenon that links right now. I wanted to take a few more polls, but I'm already high, and I don't want to start babbling. So we just gonna keep it like this, right? You know what I'm saying? But like I was saying, we already covered for anybody who's been here. That's why a lot of this stuff will always repeat itself, and to some degree as you go on you will see that certain things is not me. This is just the whole premise. As it repeats itself, you understand what the true premise of this is. Why Franz Mesmer's name came back up. You know what I'm saying? The music aspect of it. And we're going to get into all of this in little separate. So this is just again, this is an opening of the toolbox. You know what I'm saying? So we seeing, the devil in his workshop. We're understanding how this is working, right? So I'm going to go read this part again. Right? It goes, hypnotic music becomes an important part of the development of the psychosocial, in psychology, right? That regards to the hypnotic state of an automatic phenomenon that links the physical reflexes in the experiment of the sound of hypnosis. Jean Martin Court, whatever, right? Used gongs and tuning forks, and Ivan Pavlov used bells. The intention behind their experiment was to prove that psychological responses to sound could be automatic, bypassing the conscious mind. I told you I'm gonna pull up some stuff from what you call them, Clubhouse. We starting to kick in. Starting to get stronger, you know what I mean? And I ain't even puff. This is, it takes a while for me to really zone out. Okay, so it goes satanic. Something just hit me in the eye, right? Satanic brainwashing. In the 1980s and 1990s, a moral panic took place in the U.S. fearing satanic ritual abuse. As part of this, certain books such as The Devil's Discipline claim that some brands, particularly in the music genre of heavy metal, brainwashed American teenagers with subliminal messages to lure them into worshiping the devil, sexual immortality, murder, and especially suicide. Here we are in 2022, right? From the 80s and 90s, you plant a seed, right? Because they told you inside of hypnotism, you can have short or long term, right? So you planted a seed in the 80s and 90s. If you go back to them shows in the 90s, I told you, look at, I'm not sure if that was in the 90s, The Sopranos. But I know that was a good amount of time in the past for the seed to be placed. That's why I always use them for now, and also use Game of Thrones. Those are like those two shows that it seemed everybody was involved in. So I know that the message, they got it. You understand what I'm saying? So just like then, now we look at, today, their claims were some bands, particularly in the music genre of heavy metal, brainwashed American teens. They overlooked hip hop music, right? With subliminal messages to lure them into worshiping the devil, Jay-Z and them, Lucifer, son of the morning, right? sexual immortality, right? We seen from Lil Wayne on, right? Murder. We know that's all through the hip hop, right? And especially suicide, right? We heard it from Pac to Biggie, right? All of them was placing all of these things that you see today. So now when you seeing these people in these groups and they knowing that it's going against God, they talking against the Bible, and right, they are set up already to go into the other realm, right? Because I remember back in the day, you see the white girls with their little satanic um what you call that shit, the things on their neck, like a lot of the things that these black kids is acting like we don't know where they came from. Like I was looking, so I know. So you know what I'm saying? So anyway, satanic brainwashing. Oh, so we already I already had that there. I can take this out. All right. Satanic brainwashing. All right. Crime. Various people have been suspected of or convicted of hypnotist related crimes, including robbery and sexual abuse. In 1951, Paley Hollop, right, shot and killed two people during a botched robbery in Copenhagen. See hypnotist murders. Hartrop claimed that his friend and former cellmate, whatever, right, Nelson, had hypnotized him to commit the robberies, inadvertently causing the deaths. Both were sentenced to jail time. And this is in 1951, right? In 2011, a Russian evil hypnotist was suspected of tricking customers and banks around Stravport to giving away thousands of pounds worth of money. According to the local police, he would approach them and make them withdraw all the money from their bank accounts, which they would then freely give to the man. A similar incident was reported in London in 2014, where a video seemingly showed a robber hypnotizing a shopkeeper before robbing him. The victim did nothing to stop the robber from looting his pockets and taking his cash, only calling out the thief when he was already getting away. In 2013, and the then 40-year-old amateur hypnotist Timothy Porter attempted to sexually abuse his female weight loss client. She reported awaking from a trance and finding him behind her in his pants down, telling her to touch herself. I remember this. He was subsequently called to court and included on the sex offenders list in 2015. Gary Natado, then 52, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for several hypnotist-related sexual abuse charges. Besides the primary charge by a 22-year-old woman who had he sexually abused in a hotel under the guise of a free therapy session. He also admitted to having sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in December 18. A Brazilian medium named Joa with fear, also known as, right, famous for performing spiritual surgeries through hypnotism techniques, was accused of sexually abusing sexually abused by 12 women. In 2016, an Ohio lawyer got sentenced to 12 years in prison for hypnotizing his client while telling them he was just a mindfulness exercise. It was just a mindfulness exercise. Okay, sexual. State versus non-state. The central therapeutic disagreement regarding hypnotism is known as the state versus non-state debate. When Braid introduced the concept of hypnotism, he equivocated over the nature of the state, sometimes describing it as a specific sleep like neurological sleep comparable to animal hibernation or yoga meditation, while at other times he emphasized that hypnotism encompasses a number of different stages or states that are an extension of ordinary psychological and sociological processes. Overall, Braid appeared to have moved from more special state understanding of hypnosis towards a more complex non-state orientation. The state theorists interpreted the effects of hypnotism as due to primarily a specific abnormal and uniform psychological and sociological state of some description, my fault, often referred to as a hypnotic trance or an altered state of consciousness. Non-state theorists rejected the idea of hypnotic trance and interpreted the effects as hypnotism as due to a combination of multiple task specific factors derived from normal cognitive, behavioral, and social psychology, such as social role prescription and favorable motivation, active imagination, and positive cognitive sets. This is all the different people. Response, expectation, and the active use of task-specific subjective strategies. The personality psychology Robert White is often cited as providing one of the first non-state definitions of hypnotism in a 1941 article. Right? It says, hypnotic behavior is meaningful, goal directing striving. Its most general goal being to behave like a hypnotized person, as this is continuously defined by the operator and understood by the client. But simply, it is often claimed that whereas the order special state interpretation emphasizes the difference between hypnosis and ordinary psychological processes, the non-state interpretation emphasizes their similarities. Comparisons between hypnosis and hypnotized subjects suggest that if a hypnotic trance does not exist, it only accounts for a small portion of the effects attributed by hypnotic suggestion, most of which can be replicated without hypnotic induction. All right. Hypersuggestibility. Braid can be taken to imply in later writings that hypnosis is largely a state of heightened suggestibility induced by expectation and confused attention. Right? So you get that there. In particular, right, right, became known as the leading proponent of the suggestion theory, right, of hypnosis, at one point going so far to declare that there is no hypnotic state, only heightened suggestibility. Right? Only there is a general consensus that heightened suggestibility is the essential characteristics of hypnosis. Right? If the subject, if a subject after submitting to a hypnotic procedure shows no genuine increase in accessibility to any suggestion whatsoever, there seems to be no point in calling him hypnotized, regardless of how fully or readily he may respond to suggestions of lid closure and other superficial sleeping behaviors. Right? So you understand that. Conditions and habitation. See, I told you, you see me keep scratching my nose just because of this. The foam and whatnot. So I think I'm gonna close this here. Conditions and habitations. Right? I think, or is that the last section? Yeah, that's the last of it anyway. So we'll close this out and then we'll come back. I got some more stuff for you on tomorrow. So I'm waiting. I could do this part now because I'm about to take a break in 3 minutes, right? Ivan Pavlov stated that hypnotic suggestion provided the best example of a conditioned reflex response in human beings, i.e., that response to suggestions were learned association triggered by the words used. All right. Understand this right here, okay? This is important, right? Speech on account the whole proceeding, life of an adult, is connected with all the internal and external stimuli which can reach the cortex, signaling all of them and replacing all of them, and therefore it can call forth all those reactions of the organism which are normally determined by the actual stimuli themselves. We can therefore regard suggestion as the most simple form of a typical reflex in a man. He also believed that hypnosis was a partial sleep, meaning that a generalized inhabitation of cortical functions could be encouraged to spread throughout the region of the brain. He observed that the various, got a minute left, degrees of hypnosis did not significantly differ physiologically from the waking state, and hypnosis depended on insignificant changes of environmental stimuli. Povil also suggests that low brain stem mechanisms were involved in hypnotic conditioning. Right? Polvik's idea combined with those of rival and became the basis of hypnotic psychotherapy in the Soviet Union, and as documented in the writings of his follower KV whatever. Soviet theories of hypnosis subsequently influenced the writing of Western behavior-oriented hypnotherapy such as Andrew Salter. All right, so when we come back, I'll give you like a brief rundown of what we just went through. and we'll be sliding up out of here. All right, we got like 15 seconds before the break. All right, so you just deal with me for a brief moment. Since I won't be doing no more reading, I can smoke. I just looked and realized I'm not even streaming on my YouTube. A good thing it's being recorded, so I'm gonna just upload it after I finish this show. Anyway, so what we dealing with different levels right now. So we went out of hypnosis, right? We dealt with a shill. Right? The whole concept of Freemasonry is basically placing these certain people in certain areas to co-sign certain things. And so now, as you notice, it'd be easier either for me or you to point it out in yourself. Certain things where you can see are also the shills are also basically the handlers, the one who's ringing the gongs and those type of people, the people who's trying to get you to go into this way of thinking. All right, so they're working with massa. Don't let them fool you. They are working with massa. They the other side. The dark side, right? Because King James put out two Bibles, right? He put out the Satanic Bible and he put out the Holy Bible, and we're gonna get into that, and we're gonna get into him and how he plays a major part in what I'm talking about right now as well. So none of this is like I said, just a reach. All of this stuff is actually very much connected. Very much, you know. See now I'm you inside. Like I'm showing you the working mechanisms. I think when I come, I think we're gonna go. I'm gonna do the Duncan rituals and that next. Like I'll do that part and show you this system, the things that's being said, and showing you it in those books. So you can know that this is, I'm showing you a system, sure, and you can go, yeah, okay, you're showing me that, the legal system, the medical system has used this and has performed this sham, but I haven't showed you the totality. And I showed you the religious aspects, the satanic, aspects, the music aspects. All of this is all still right here. All under this one system. Well, two systems that's really, a split system, hypnotism and mesmerism. Right? Right? We could say, right, we could say, what do you call it? The Scottish right and the York right? We could say the Democrats and the Republicans. We could say Bloods and we could say any two opposing things, but seems to be saying the same thing, right? Yeah, but doesn't Chris talking about they defending their neighborhood? Well, if everybody's defending their neighborhood, then there shouldn't be no problem, right? Because you only defending yours. If everybody stepped back and just defended their own damn neighborhood, none of this would be. But then you got all of the other elements, right? The characteristics of crowd control and that, and placing you in a certain mindset. You get a doctrine, documents, and this is what you, without bylaws are, right? So now you are caught up in that. But these are passed down to you from people inside environments, jail or whatever, right? And you got to wonder where they getting it, right? And so, when you take a look back and you understand that Freemasonry is geared towards the what do you call it? The I don't want to say the streets, but the criminal element of it. You understand what I'm saying? This is what you get. When you dealing with the criminal element, there's a church for that. There's the satanic church, right? There's where you got people who can justify doing certain things because they got a say in a pagan god or whatever that they can put that under, right? I told you this damn mic, it makes my nose itch when I was smoking there. So we look at these things. Let me put my banner up for you. All right, so you could just know. All right, so when you look at these things, you understand. Well, I hope you begin to understand the system that's really set up against you on all sides. And that's just on your daily life. We haven't gotten to, what he's building. We only showing you I just opened up his toolbox, right? I showed you his tools, the people that he uses, right? I'm showing you the mad scientist and, his approach. He went to the what do you call them, the Bohemian Groves, right? These are the conversations, these meetings of these elite people in certain walks of life, and so that's your financier. That money, you use that to trickle down, and you use the artist, say Jay-Z, he's in it. You won't see him because you can't even reveal yourself into that for like 40 years or some shit like that, I believe it is. So when you look at these things, you start seeing the connections. You see the background players, right? Because all of this stuff I could point out, and it could be deep within itself, like, wow, that's that, right? But I'm showing you the all of the players and how the game is played. So if you want to know who these tools are, right? You listen to certain talking points. I mean, in your regular daily life, and say you talking something about right, the new talking points now is homosexuality. So you say certain things and you learn what the talking points are for them. Like say I remember it was like you'd be like, yo, all of these gay dudes, so that just means that it's more females, I could for more for me. Right. So you would this was like an ongoing thing. And I mean, like, you wouldn't hear it from one person. That's how you would know that these are the triggers. Because it'd be random people. I'm a type of person that's like everywhere. I could be in California today and be in Kentucky tomorrow. And so there's no way that these people know each other. So there's no way that they know each other and they still, using the same talking points. That's the triggers. You understand what I'm saying? So to understand this is to understand that you have already, through your TV, to the things, you have never not been in a trance. You have been beaten in the head with by religion. I don't care if it's Christianity to Satanism, everything in between, from Islam to fucking Buddhism. You have already been put in a trance. So there's no way. That's why they question your waking state. You were not in your waking state until you leave all of the things alone. So say you don't listen to music for a week. And in that same instance, you are not watching TV in the same time. Right, so you're not having any outside influences of radio or TV, right? Now you have to combat the information of the community in which you are in and the belief system of that, right? So you would have to be able to see if the community system is a lock-in system, right? And so once you are able to decipher these things, then you are in your natural state because you are no longer influenced by any outside influences. So then when you take in information, all information that you were supposed to be taking in at that time is not even on things to reinforce your belief. You are supposed to find things to counter anything that you have ever been told to see if there is a counter to it. Right? If you've been on the on you know the woke and the conscious, people be like, oh yo, about well, where's Jesus' grave? That's why I came out with the whole um Julius Caesar, you know, and the Vatican's dirty little secret. You know, that I already knew the information, but I just got tired of, you know, seeing that up there. So I said, you know what? Clearly nobody knows, right? So let me tell them. So then that way there would be no argument about that. I don't see that on my page no more. Now I'm seeing people coming out with videos and basically adding that into their speech because I gave them something. I don't put it out, you know, like I'm over here doing this. As far as they know, because I don't even intertwine them. That's why everybody that's dealing with the my YouTube is not connected to my Facebook. I don't solicit them in this sense. Well, my other page. I'm lying because my other page, my page for my book and all of that. Yeah, I do solicit them. I'm lying there. But what I'm saying is, as far as my social page on Facebook, no, I don't. Like all of the people I socialize with, now the people that's on my page, you know, this page would be, you know, people that I'm giving the information. I'm not soliciting it from you. I'm just giving it to you. You understand what I'm saying? But it's just different. I just feel like I'm not looking for a cosigner. This does not need cosigner. This needs whether I'm providing you an actual fact or I'm not. Like I said, after these 6 months, after that, I mean, I'm literally going to be able, and you will be able to sit with me in any TV show or movie, and we can point it out together. And then that way it can prove whether or not what I presented to you was an actual fact. Because after this, he who sees this stuff after a 6 month period should be able to perform this on their own time It wouldn't need somebody else, okay, Star is on. It wouldn't need nobody else to tell you this information. You understand what I'm saying? It would sit on its own. That's all I'm telling you. So this is why I'm providing it, to be able for the person to be able to do it on their own and certify, like, yeah, this is an actual fact. So then from then you can join, the lawsuit that I'm proposing. But I would need for an X amount of people outside of, a group of people to be able to certify it themselves. That's what the whole purpose is. The whole purpose is for you to be able to say on your own, yes, this is, he provided an actual fact. And if these are actual facts, then that means the lawsuit and all of that is valid. And this is way past reparations. Like I told you, this is beyond reparations. So anybody worrying about certain things, this is something that's bigger than all of that. This is the unifier that, I always feel that people are not understanding how they keep being separated. So once you reveal those, everything else comes to a great ease. So with that, I'm gonna put up one of my sayings. Let's see what we should have y'all here today. Let's try born great. Hold on, let me pardon me here. All right. No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping. You understand? It's just what it is, man. Nobody is born great, man. You know what I'm saying? When everybody else is sleeping, and this is what we're talking about, where they under that hypnotic spell,